Half a day boy nas dan saludo para todo si mani kumini programan Marianas Agupa and sabalu talo Stefanilos kinin I oran alas 9 gagan este oran alas 11 undang kululu na kulo para todo Samso ne mani kumini 100.3 FAMA itutumbo este yung sendit na kapasidad elektrisidad gayri. So malugyan na papa tinian zan luta zan lokwi para siya naman luta manggay gubeno gi Island Guam special na kulo para todo Samso para siya manggay gi sa Honolulu sa California, Oregon, Washington, Texas, Idaho, Florida para siya manggay gi East Coast, Virginia, zan manggay gi Washington. Zani Perit Mundo special na kulo inextended para todo Samso. Napago na dia November dia 6, 2021 después de mapanyagun Hesus Kristo. Tamala, natapan sige mo na gwini sa hungan magait esta tres brasa kinomonya yagdaw para titing-ting pago na sabalo. Pues, mala, natapan sige mo na gwini. Natanoy lokwe todo Samso destina tronco paguna para takalang hit tronkun pahong na para takalang hit pahong na bonitong sabalo sinbad gumala tatapan sige mo na tatanoy lokwi para siya humuhugwi programata anonymous donor si Zeus Masi todo lokwi iajudo binigi programata Tower Foundation si Zeus Masi. DylanTower.com si Zeus Masi. Kay soundbed sa pre. Kana open gwini DylanTower.com. At lang mo sa istipaw para si Dylan.
Dylan Tauber is an artist, musician, and author who has been based in New York City, Jerusalem, Miami, a remote island in the southwestern Pacific, and now in northern Israel.
Alright, pues pala, natapan sige mo nagbini sumukan iprograman Marianas Agupa para Lokwi Diabetes Prevention Foundation si Zeus Masi. Pag na ugan sabalo, malatanoy si Lokwi Undong Kululo na agradecimiento ito ta time check at 9:01. Mapatumagi si Lokwi ginin Bravo Pharmacy and Wellness Center.
I-COVID siyantin amot dyan hinimlo. I-Bravo Pharmacy dyan Central Maulik na hinimlo. Pronto dyan listo na servisyon amot para hinimlo. Agang watugi 233 amot 233-2668. Email is mo prescription di bravomeds@gmail.com. Mabababa ginin lunes esta birnes. Ginin ioran alas 9 gegan, estay oran alas 6 ipupoy. Sabalo, ginin ioran alas 9 gegan, estay oran alauna gitaluani. Talo, agang wato 233 amo 233-2668.
Alright, mga malifa kanielos na Bravo Pharmacy and Wellness Center. Time check at 9:02. Suli iamot midyo di Bravo Pharmacy and Wellness Center. Garapan o sinukag man, mga man malifa nila. Okay, pues malagatapan sige mo nagminit sumukan iprogramata tanoy lokwi para aso siya kumakat su iprograma Garapan Farmers Market, Garapan Farmers Public Market, mga man malifa nila. No pago na sabalo gwasya suntuli watu lokwi tuwa na gwasya man bebendi siya takawa siya. Lo gwa impormasyon humuzong lokwi gini manihantin Garapan Farmers Public Market. Na por favor, daging pa rin park ikaritan nizo, park giumbanda sa reserve parking esti manggaygi Garpan Farmers Public Market para azuha siya manggaygi manmamamahan data susuday lang si ruta mga malefa na daging paron paman sinyang parko wi daging ti customan if Garpan Farmers Public Market tao po siya matoy karitamo pues para azu siya manhahano watu benaw gi free market mga malefa ni no EA's air conditioning, mga malefa-lopi na daging paraun alignay karitamo. Ito niya, air conditioning, bisita si Aimee, kaya itatin itarusu. A's air conditioning. Okay? Coral Garden Rota Hotel, daging pubiay papaluta, mga malefa natin sa lagi Coral Garden Rota Hotel. Saka, si Kendo o sinusurit, kaya giha, gikantun tasi. Daging malinaw, itasi son ilaw. Un ilaw watu gi islan Guaham, un liya siyempre donggat with the Anderson Air Force Base. Okay? Terus mala, datapan sige mo nagbinitsumukan ipugamata. Guasya kulo para talagnos, para pawago na samalo. Espesyal na kulo para si Mrs. Granacias. 85 anyos. Sa si Zeus o ninay lopi mas no brinabunya para mamamay na siya na tempo. Happy birthday talo. Special birthday kulo. Para lokwi si Luta si Dylan Tauber, happy birthday. Dylan Tauber. We wish you well. Stay safe, brother. Okay. Siguro tayo ng papa kagman si Joe Ataw. What na kada ugan, kada sablo, umikrong si Luta. Joe Ataw, ng papa kagman. Special na kulo para hago. Papa si siya sumililibra, ihanin mapadagun niya, mala natapas sa lista, kinin imapos na sablo, piulang no siste. Law si Donna Jean, dan si Dan Cancela. Happy birthday kulo para hago Donna Jean. Dan Cancela. Para itilutag ng papa, Luta Justin Manglo niya, happy birthday kulo. Lokay para hago. Para si Deborah Fleming. Mga malefa, lokay Deborah, happy birthday. Sa isainaw ni Nay lokay mas maulik na hinemdo. Si Kumayrin Cathy Salas, happy birthday Kumayrin para hago. Dan si Luta si Juan Maratita, special na birthday kulo. Charlene Tenorio, para hagulo ko happy birthday kulo. Para si Kelly Tenorio, happy birthday Kelly. Kiki Benjamin, special na birthday kulo para hago. Para si Paduna, Pedro de Leon Guerrero, happy birthday kulo para hagulo ko. Former speaker, dan si Chiluta si Frank Cabrera, happy birthday kulo para Hamzo na dos Gang Itaw McDonald's. Alright. Happy birthday para Ramzo na dos. Namala, natapan sige mo nagbini sa hunggan magay. No, what did it no minors din na problema down in Power, in Capitol Hill, Mount Tapochaw, the Sinyaha Gua area, pinigi sa Ipanti on 100.3 lo ritutum westi streaming sa tanang huso nga ritutum westi lo ipurmata gi YouTube live dan streaming live i Marianas Agupa Facebook live para ato siya maniriga bueno saludo para todo samzo wapat tigi islati oon sa pestigi 100 gi sumizo dayo lo sin bagus niya ma-review i-program di YouTube. Okay, ano mo naman sa neste. Wala, natapan sige mo lang sumukan sa hunggan bini na si Mona para celebra ihaanin no stilig niya haanin no Solidanon Amerikano. Okay? Pudi man patihid gi familyan politika za kasilelebra sti kadasakan ihaanin man sulidanon Amerikano hit i relasyon i gobernamento ta ni Amerikano i asuntun politika na man familia hit za gaigeno siya no maski tilacio 35 años disdi anay madeklara finmawi si terminate si President Reagan i Nobyembre dia 4 1986 kalan Paulo 35 años malokan 10 años disdi anay man tagubennan may sahit siya na terminate i trusteeship agreement sa man solidano hit ginin eno para muna. Law ginin ituton niya gin 1978 tagubennan may sahit anay efektibo i constitution. Pues por eno na rason na na mes i Nobyembre binin na semana no ta celebra eno i hanin man solidano hit. Sa hapa eno kumikiling niya wasya no buasya eno dalanak niya iparaun solidano no debitapan partisipao para tapan kita muna man mambota batabota siya i hadi po representahe no tapan tatsuwi siya i maulik na tsotso solidano para i komunidad Marianas siya maunuhong nagaygi tiniyan sa ipan luta dibitatsogi di maulik na ginagawa ko mo man solidano hit. Kasi hindi kayo na sa gimismo tempo sa langnos nagwaha para bisitata si former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court si Jose de la Cruz gioran alas 10:20 pa ako tapan adingan dili pod eno siya i hap gagi papa i tratus cabinet i relasyon ta ng Amerikano kao dinadan siya mo na na kinazon itatsutsubi dinin itutuhon ta na ita gobernador may sahit hafay siya kumikilig niya i relasyon ta mauno na para ta pelahit zangin tiumafat sa siya i sinintin tau Amerika zan i sininteta ilay siya naman matsutsubi sa Amerika mauno siya pues sanya no nigi no sempita atan no but adingan it zan si Luta si former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court Jose de la Cruz gioran alas 10:20 pa. So nige no nasunto siyempre ta sige mo na sumukan ini siyempre siya na didiskuti pa di oran alas 10:20 no mana sa gwasya binilokwi no jumahululo binigi para tadiskuti pa ako na Sabado, importante natapan adingan pa ako sa solidano tatsutsu para tanapan manungo itaw to half siya man masusisidi gi parewa binigi asuntun ekonomiya, asuntun kultura, asuntun gobernamento, asuntun politika na isgagay unit mo na siya nilala na itafapana binigi komplikaw na nilala no tanatak kilo ilingwahita sa ginin inaw na sinya mas man adingan it dali manaw tawta ininihila na natin no kasi nige wini na semana mala natatutuhon akanelos i-half lokwi siya no manggaygi gihalong ikomunidad hapa man masusedi wini na semana no wini na semana tatungo esta nagwaha esta siya man kumahulu inumiro edzi ilinya i COVID-19 gwa kan na kahulu i 50 esta man ni nazi na parewa kan pamaguon san azu siya iman ni nazi siya na no etsudiedad siya parewa ni nodedad sa ni etsudiedad wasya man makwarentena po din ako man mamamonitor. No umaanok na sigun ginin i-report na manhuhusong siya na no estasinya ha este makontain mo na sa dos bandaha na gumamas no inatag ni gihalong dos pamilya ha siguro masasangan usok sa puneno na rason na no pwede o maribay no lagyan man nasura at siya man positive kasi nigi na hinaday at talalagnusa gini na pwede ha tiyuhana na muna no za u sige mo na kumuna na ihalong isengsong so tak ni siya manotaw tapos wala data man usya na ito siya na autoridad man nanay abiso para ta protehi ihalo ni sengso at nasuwes tinatindot binigi islata pues nigi ita hululu bini na simona no i-otro bini tahungon esta na hunggan esta sige mo nesti asuntong politika wa esta patungo na wa dos esta kumahulo na niya para saya lopi maloko wini na eleksyon ni Mama Mayla utusakan para gobyerno esta tatungo wini na si Mona na si Representative Tina Sablan ganzi para dirihi mo na quit pun Democratic Party para gizaw ginihidui kubo gobyerno, kandidatong gobyerno. Dapat ino na rason na talanag no sestis estagwaha tatuo mapos niya na si Mona, si Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios, gidalokwe para hadzot ti halom na niya. Dan pago bini na si Mona si Representative Tina Sablan. Tatungo esta na trabia taza ganzi para segundo na sila como Lieutenant Governor Tina Sablan. Trabia, no? Siyempre, no, huya, umusong ni mamamayla siya na si Mona, no? Inigi, no, i-trace esta pa malalago para fan maniti como sa hululo na opisinang publiko, segmentin publiko como gobyerno. O si Governor Torres, ida para malalago para agun no re-elect si Lieutenant Governor malalago pa gobyerno loke ng pago si Representative Tina Sablan. Umalog apanidos na sigun na no kinantean politika no umaano na sinyahakwa o totalo doko na niya mini imamamayla na si Mona o tonga si Mona kita tumo za mapatenya sempre ibotong kumpiyansa sina mapatintiyaw. Dadangin mapatintiyaw kau haji para utsinili 50+1 padiskute no siya. Sinya hati sinya matsuli no na numero. Dapat na rason na sempre sinya kumuhay si niya runoff. No di mas itahululo za di segundo. Siyempre, nanginti hatsuli na 50+1 po si mas takilo. Kalangwida dila niya plurality. Okay? Kung matsuli, majority na 50+1 pues i-plurality mas hululo dan isigundo. Inige no para ultimo na siyempre pamaganzi hazi kinilesti na gumawa siyempre runoff. Half esti na tadiskukuti sinya guamas o sino half na gumawa esti na no umuasti na ninalago para upan maloko isa sa dilo gilagwasya umahalubin ni programata na gwasya timang tento na ipresente na reglamento siya sa administrasyon sa punaw na rason na bulan ninalago na siya matsuwi mas mauli di presente na administrasyon sa tatunwa taliliya wa siya mahuzong siya no guahasya no gaston publiko gipresente na administration na maimbestiga di komite di legislatura pud aso siya na gasto siya sa hindi siya muna fanfuntun siya parewa presente na Lieutenant Governor na hadzot tinan niya halon bini pud guahasya ti umafaksa siya no guahasya questionable siya expenditures questionable siya na abuse of public funds. Ini siya manhuhuzong siya ganun ginin investigasyon legislatura titatugo maunut sinya ko mattu sinya gwena sinya hafa para utsogi gobyerno gipresente no umaanok na bula siya no bandan employment ta report na wa memorandum na para lamon niya ha esta para muna no siya ha ni naay autoridad ginin iarpa na hanggang visa law walo ko siya no manaw taon niya na igwaha desisyon na siya mapatina sa desisyon na po makuni so na taw-taw sa estige tagin para si governor po sign sign lo ti umaano na siguro gini memo na ay tanto visa po fatinas how siya po pan makuni so hindi siya na kanan ha gumawa siya punto niya ipubliko po din para no visa ha po so we todo do ine po pan makuni ini siya muna pan punto ni publiko i-appointment siya para tsotso para board siya, para hati siya po pan makuni, wana taw-taw, esta tres tiyong niya, na isa makuni para board, makuni para este na tsotso, za, no, siya, na malipaparay, no, na publiko, na esta tres, wazi 4 statito niya, no, mag-consult, ko pa siya, no, board, no, member siya, ng tafko, kasi nigi siya malilia na taw-taw sa timan mamay ko, imanaw taw-taw ko rin, puro siya, ito siya man makukuni, puro siya manggatso nga, yan doon urisa ha. Kasi nigi siguro na mas na siya ha, guatalo otro, mag-wifi para palogo para gobyerno. Kung siya na tratamento na man ma susesirigi islata Marianas, sa ipantinian sa lupa. Pues, enigi, no imas sa hululo, binigi asunto para pa na sabalo, wasya, humuzong lokwi no news kinin ilota delegate na para ajo siya manmanyatbi kumo man veterano siya ha mas laksi mo na isibisyo sa hafa na siya laksi sa edo na bio introduce si delegate kilili o maanok na sige mo na ha bansagwi gi pisong kongreso Estados Unidos da kung enong na rason na no mapatinas ito na board i-advisory board na isinya direktamente i-interest ato siya man veterano humana na wagwato esta i-secretary of veterans da sige mo na no nagili dito to siya na pinatso niya si delegate kilili pues para ato siya man manitbig no na taw-tawta kung man veteran siya eno na asunto humusok para siya. Kasi nigi asunto gi delegate kilili na sige mo na loki gratis man makto puro ipinatso niya si delegate kilili. I-otro bini na humusok loki na esta buasya man masusesi dia Amerika. At kumo ito siya i-matutsunik mo na as President Biden para uno siya mas fundo para niya infrastructure na plano niya para pan maadun siya italan itolay siya bantalan siya fundo siya airport seaport ang tapko siya na infrastructure na siya loki Hanoi hit wini kampo para avansa muna i-asunto izota infrastructure ko siya nige kumaygi ginin Washington DC. Pues i-wasya asunto no ang dawa na tahutson kita gini antisa di tapanaw no watu di Island Guam o sino watu di Island Tinian Senator Singh no umaano sa talilya mo na nagwasya no timan pareho siya na tratamento sa eksperyensyata gini ditutunta no na man gumaha gobernamento ta no za no wazili niya no kalan anafan no maningin tihip na talilya itinilay ka gini pues itutunta panelos no mula siya tsotso gobernamento sa tatsotso si bisyo by publiko ginin iminalagota wa siya tatsotso siya ito siya iman masusedi gihalat sa tana za hululo isibisyon publiko tatatis siya pitsunat siya na interes za nigi na diferensya gini mapus zan pa na tempo za na fan specialmente ato siya na manenatay manlalala sa pa mali no na ti pareo tratamento siya pa sinisedi hanggang matulalay kay tempo ka comprende na no esta sumua zo na sinenti para tatsogi servisyon publiko kana za huludo servisyon publiko za tatati siya interes personal lo umadlibis pa esti para muna umadlibis esti za talili esta na gumaygi mas personal na interes za tatati pa servisyon publiko za nigi na pinitesti tasasangan itasasangan esti manautauta sa dididia na samoro ipresente loki man di luta no Carolinian tiif migay talidia na tumulog Lazio no 12%, 22% tumulog populasyon pa na gula siya manhono siya sulidonon Toto Marianas para otro tono muebi siya para isla Guam Guatu Gizahanalo Amerika manhono pud eno na rason tratamento para manautauta tumaygwi puro siya pikat dia man matsutsubi gobernamento ta sa talilia eno siya sa nigi na pinitinya iti pareo manmapus na tempo zan pago na tempo sirbisyo dan man matsutsubi pareo binigi islan sa ipan tinian zan luta sa inigi no siya na man masusesidi za talilia ipitsunat za muna na za tatati sirbisyo liparaha an umaliam zo zan isi hagas manyedbi kumu kongreso senador liparaha nusa matsutsuli karitan gobernamento ginin ikalagwat fondon publiko na matsutsuli iparaw abansa siya atana hati siya man manyunugon kareta nito siya na kareta lamlam zaman bonito karetan Amerikano na man ma-import sa azo siya sumutsuli bentaha kumo sa benting publiko tidebi na po tayo wena no inigi siya hanapan pupuntunin apan yelos sa talilia pareho agwinigi sa ipan tinian sa luta lipara iti hagas man magipisa gwaji at sutsuli hasta pago ikaretan gobernamento kita tungo tayo manueno na transaction ko anay mafahan ikareta mausa sa napi gobernamento za anay makpo termino sirbisyon niya no hatsuli sa pafahan pago di esta kan na emphasis ta kasi nigi siya na no ana fan fufuntunit para usa no fundon sa lapi publiko para personal gain za talidia atana masya gaygaw no sa ipan atana how did siya ihagas man manyedpizon atan hafa na kareta man asisibbi talidia atan ang gaygaw luta atana talo ahit yun na gaygaw so lipara ang gaygaw tinian atana talo so siya sa mag-uusaha isa na karetan gobernamento anay manggaygi ko ahit manahalon sa para ihazi tumagwi siya po na usa o sagi para ta-reduce igastota dididi nagwinahan no gobernamento o ninahalong gobernamento sa para ta foxy monisi niya personal gain inigi siya na napiniti naging pong compara antes dan pao so gagagaw pinasensya ta comprende ihapman masusesidi data postura hit para iman mamamayla siya na tempo ko para zangin para uniksi siya ibutumo atan siya don ebalua eksamina mono na para un polo butumo inigi importante para na hinanaw ikumplikao na hinanaw sa zangin hukuk esta fondo na makatugin gobernamento na Amerikano za taza kinalanting ekonomiya gwini pues monuhit na para ta subsidies itay gwini na kantidan tao masya tumulog 12% lo magkagay kita 47 mid na tao na mono na para tanagwahal hinala binigit komplikaw na hinano. O si Jesus masi za mana da telefon ko kulo para sa mani group o sino i live no chat. All right, pues mala da talieste. Okay, Mike, right. Si Dave Lemes, okay, si Jesus masi. Untuk meron sa bala dita kan sige mo na din. Ini sumukan itu berbahasa sa kanono waktu di Island Guahan. Si Peter Pinilina ko ready. Alright, namanazan waktu di Island Pinian Senator Singh. Manazan ino waktu di Swelo Tem. Di paro participaw siduta sidoro walo kaya sa kita pa na Sabado. Namanazan ito na tanalo si former Chief Justice Jose de la Cruz. Alright, pues bala na open na este. At si Peter.
BBC taman mafadu inobiya dari inobiya get udi alay matsi maila sa pagumatu maila sa magagi imagatu maila sa kula para makina
Alright, alright, bala tana ano na what to get Senator Singh tinian to di ready si Peter di Island Guaham. Tanana na what to be si Duta over Senator Singh. Buenas, Senator!
Buenas, Fred.
Buenas, para hawalo ko eh. Wala na tanana na ulit si Duta.
Tayo may kumpis na estasyon ni Marianas Agupa. Ako na pala nung piyeta mo.
Agasa, kalon sa sige to si Peter sinyalidon pinalon daw. Kuri gua bisitata pago tana kunodan siya i-hafman masusisidigi isla, Senator?
Mura mo, lamigay mo, ladies tiyo. Nigam na nito, gusti ka nigat to ni Tempane.
No trabia tita mimi desti mauno cinyesti sa trabia ti umuhuzung i para i segundo no governo na kandidato nai apo sa Tilacio mamamaisin si Representative Christina Sablan kung bitsay kandidato para governor mamamaisin ajudo ginin i partida para ajuda no Murastrea no Haji mohon sinya para gatsongnya esti mamamayla na eleksyon pues hasta que umuzong ano sinya na tali no afasin yung tinitaw to no para maunong sinya maunong wato na no bago no enoa para inamnya na umuzong no kulo eno na signifikasyon para tres esti no ipofan malogo sa titatungo ko wao doko talo na Otro na kandidato sinya four-way race di tagifto estilo nigi presente pa ugo tres esti nakabazero no man gumay interes para sa hululo.
Ay, di
Tutunggu na no, sana ka tutunggu no pati dumi talo.
Lo sebelah nih.
Sebelah.
Oke. Si Congressman Kilili lagi mantannya no dan aplikap si Tina i gatungnya asa kamang of no nakan dikaw. Jadi siyempre belum harus di anak sedugi kita no. Jadi ini masuk pinu permohonan no gay merito i alfa perata diskusi bago ni. Law unimito kaya unimito to dumafa sinitim. Law go sinitik ko atanas daron ka unimito. Monas titiran siya ni Ofana Turay Patidan. Sumudahi si Tinan katsongnya. Pero sama lagi latsa giniki tatok na. Pero suka manoi si Tina neno nagizo ajik no hati para katsongnya. Saya kuna tiwadi ko katsongnya no put perintis pat purapan na sa pedaligo polisi sida sa sitina len ako na ora isa wow na tinisi sorry len na pebay ka sitina lo preciso e non na modun tauto lo talakhalong bini sa len man mafundwit yung Republican Party ni matatatsong bini ati PTV asa Democrat na iti business no business niya at kung matalo madibid interest eno na barna mas maulit para wow binigi Democrat anyway este Democrat ni tagtugong istigi bago para takot sa dera ihafa para tasodda ng iman holumit hafa tetenang timalalatay istigi ista hinasusuko holumit tino kutkari nino ista ino siya mulai Commonwealth down na uma atanis tinapandanay may naman data panggay asi at siyan manggay asi may data panggay mamalaw diditi dito siya na los provimos ibiw ilaku as President Biden the U.S. Congress ni 100% Democrat umabodisti di mana inya si Kilili dan Suliin mau declare dong kulusti na signifikasyon para kita gini mau igila kamu datani si Sita Life na ino na pinatotso ino na effort na siya uukan jika na itinas Democrat sa todo laitis di inilaku Estados Unidos Democrat o di siya manggaya siyang the night sunset sa uukan jika na Democrat lokwe then itigini siya pasangan na baba i-Democrat dan yung baba pinatinasta dan tadi sekwita listi na oportunidad. Divisionin no i Palacios Apatan kumogoti in terms segi reputasyon dan skandalo. Reputasyon apa tanga kumogoti stenosia. Kalau dalai datin di para manatanga manatai manusia pakan. Mana suas. Si Pelosius apa tang? Lama si masjid sekurang parong matampia. Mina mahlaunya. Kita ni manggaji bini di Demokrat. Ini sorry na tagwaida si Tina. Isiso. Kapanapatatso si Tina. Period. Dan isisita rin a reglamento o una hora sa diskitso. Tinananotan. Toda niuli tauto. Parang matawapo no fatutsu overtime. Es después di pumapasi no masalani no overtime mismo. Sektornya. Ang bulog ito to. Istaglen di itinata yang kusinata problemata. Anto di airi maipi. Oh, akike suffocated ista. Maipi accident.
Kalau di kumahulu, kalintura ista ginintinian, no, senata.
Oh, ito biasti. Tapi atlet yung ilino kalinturanya tinya.
Okay.
Isti mamay lagi ni na diverted airport ni Paulina Vanilla isti kampulis din na kilowatt mungkin maipi. Dinatsil nisita katananay na basta no na debiyon di mana sa gobernment di haulong isti. Agwizo loke no ay suluklen mo otronong tatiti loke.
No, tapi no taatan debi taatan istimuna na sa putante na i Hoffman Massachusetts dan iti liliko na kita tunggu ko bata ludoko pun i guasya sinintin iti mausay gobernamento para kitsunan na personal gain na siya ililiko. Dati tablemi si siya man halong man malalago man maloko. Sa pun ino na rason na siya gua utro na rason lo i trattamento ti pareo da antis. Aswa di guan na tauto ista tretres ti unya sa ma kuni ini mana board wini mana no eko apa siya? Aswa no pus halong i kusina ha. Naman ajuda na kalan i circo na. Inigi siguro i tauto sa malipara lai na tauto ista tisiyang dagis na tauto. Eko sinya latsi no na assessment no senata apa natan?
Wag ini meti tada idonya concern neko berang patetik na crossing ni feeling ni concern sa tada pintat ke unai waktu masyadi titik kumugwa kusista mau dikagwin mo bagi sa hita mana aso agupa na kupamnya ni kareta panaiman no di pesti mapareo na mo na si opinion no di mikiringnya no na
Apa yun sangan no na zangin esta tayo hindi mo honesti pos esta turda ng kwalifikaw man malawos ta.
Ay, nangintay na may gatsing na pasing no kwalidad no nilachi. Bisa si Torres na. Kusentera may pisti tau pinan ang kwalifikaw ng gobyerno. No, that's how wrong. Degrading it, no? No, hindi no, nagpasok pinagpapanya. I hate to do this na pregawin no papisasan. Di mo malago papisangan. Lo force no papisangan ni mo, Glenn. Parewa na ni Stipa Puniti. Di daw si Tina personally sa Ticarinosa. Di Tatsali. Lo isisita si Tina pa na ora. Parewa na nila na principle. I mean, tulad ka gini manintay to yung opinion niya.
Alright. Okay. Tapos
Nakatansa na pinanda ko'y timang malago. At tingis daw ko sobrang.
okay. Alright. Si Zeus Masi.
Okay.
Senator Singh ano papa tinian mala data pansige mo na binigi programata. Pudi walo kaya sa kija si luta mata sagi si Welo team ko na papa luta titungo ko estano ready. No si attorney Santos ginin Island Guaham umuat sa kinya si luta tisinya no humalong pa ako para istira ihap man masusesi di gwenong Island Guaham law waha po di tamensyon na ha na apa no sige ko mahulo estiling niya COVID-19 lope na umuso na i-speaker di Island Guaham si speaker Terlahi umusong lope desta ni Nazi palaan no lezi COVID-19 da esta self-quarantine gi da pwede ti sige mo na esti salakon ko esti na tsipno gihalong no mani luta wenong Island Guaham lo nigi man masusesini na polo da talikaw sinya no umalom si Peter i tiutsago mo mala nata panahon papa luta ta stiri para si Guelo Tim sa Guaham Bisitata Lope itiutsago mo tana punhazan istisia i-report. Alright, mala nata okay, mala tanawlong si Guelo Tim no Guelo Tim una nangga paron halom oh ni gesta. Alright, nangga tanawlong mi chiluta sa gesta gwini. Alright. Alright, Guelo Tim. Spensa, kung sige mo na Guelo Tim, apas diyan man masusisi ko papa no luta.
Buenas ogan line no girlfriend karungo kita.
Yan unggan. Kung sige mo na.
Okay no talwa line no Mengenai dangkungnya sejujur masih lai Marianas Agupa dan experience melki per hagu dan para todos mereka nai pagunaugan no talwa antri di takun sigi mona no tinajok para todos malanguta dan Puedia ofan homlo tsadik dan loke wazuzuzos para mermagasta guni gizalutan dan islas Marianas. Gipago lai na ogan nai no taigini no para tatsagi estige da sinya buntin no man ajuda nai no esti ilada na tinanum nai no mega no tumungo da comprende na tronco no pois no Mafaamot isti ilada parewa ihagon itineksa dan ifloris nai
Aha.
za put abundancia gini gi tenota no malagozo na para bai hu presenta put isti ilada gi karda na manera pois no gi pago lain no put i sweti sa no lamon itil kalado si pago na tempo nai za put di sesian na gini gi otro biaisian no dang yang parbai famatinas no put amot presentasyon nai no tinisaron na bai fotatsong galong sida galong guma za azo na tapentos nai ne para waha mas no informasyon o sino edukasyon gi bandan esti i amot natibo.
Okay. Alright.
Os pago gi mismo tempo lain no benti i umatan esti nai gaya azo gini gi tinanomo no tongkon lada da esti gi na no sida benti i umatan esti gi Estiga itinagkalada siya di Sanhilo na manakala di anay. Sa estiga nagagizo guni sa no para makomprendi mas no put esti ilada. Siya bantigwa mulili esti siya. Os estiga
Okay.
os esti ilada na no pera di ihagon ifloris itineksa no mega kumumprendi na mentras fresco mas maulik. Lau gua bentiti comprendin na sinisisaryo na upatu itinagsalada para edio musa pro mafa juice nai
Okay.
costa unistige no este immature na tinagsa nai no sinya ha sinisisaryo na estakimosa sinya ha utuli este itoa esta na tinagsalada na fresco Zau pika da sinya mausa i blender da makula da masuli ihanom dia na yung juice sa mas fresco da pues no ti kaipaw para kalang lada dangin mosa na kalang kaipaw da sinya guati gumoiza lau put iponsuli i fresco na sustansiyanya sinya unsuli i tineksa na toa esta sinya pica sinya kano o sinya loke pa juice nai pues lo i fresco na tineksa lada na sinya bonti mas mali nai i presentación gi fresco na presentación anay sinya mali po itinanumulada no gimabla na tempo sempre gua sia outro na amot nei para by hu gaseta hujung nei para mali no apa posisyon na i amot o sino itinano maneta pa amot nai sa guana ben nei dan sesu na ben na siya tasangan za titatungo apa posisyon na itinano na mapa amot Pues no model lastige lain na programa za gay pago ko walay no melo Glenn question mo lain.
Okay. Holet. Okay. Hugan. No guano manzukti wini inigan na hani no politisya i ambut na tipo yung mensyon na kada sabalo za no manmamaisin manautauta samuro na kausinya un zangin Pagano pogoy amot tineksa lada no kausinya un explica hapa siya mangga sumnya no siya na para patinas hapa na klasin amot na kala medyo man malago po ingredient no siya un pasalista pat enawa ilada no enawa tasa otro ingredient enawa mausa para magimit san para hapa po fina maulik itaw-taw nena.
Hunggan no gua siya mangga chongnya lau depende gi suruhan na pat suruhano ne mamatinas amot nai lau gi gua ho na experience na comprendi larada na tinanom no uli na gi para gua ho opinion na tinisisaryo na para gua ga chongnya sa larada nai no mega mensi ti comprendi na ezi mapanana na calcium vitamin ezi lagnya polysaccharide Gujas na question no sustansya Ijangin mampu sa tumunok idotan no blood pressure na siya hinat sa hunok inajuda. Jangin loki mampu sa takilo sinya hajuda para na tapapa. Lau I para menggacongnya no ileko na sinya man mabisita isuruhana sa gua siya liktan no leblu man maraknus lau tauza no tumutugi papa no apa siya menggacongnya lau sempro ge tempo janggen timamalawit nai sa hastedi tu isena lano ka tempo no gaigi eno na intensyon I para guhasya amot na para bay hutugi papa ni apa para adanaannya. Lau ti kumikilig niya lokwin na janggin hutugi papa para enawa sa ahi ti mamparew I mamamatinas amot sa wazi mampareho para I famagun para I manhobin dan imaramko lo mansasano I amot lau ti mampareho para manggatong niya sa sigong di edad. Pues este na importante na ta comprender na ahi tidang unsuli amot debit ta ketungo ko amot pamagun amot manhobin o sino man amko sa timam pareho.
Okay, está. Alright, pues enuwa para pa ako na Sabado no Beluken.
Hunggal lagi bandar esti amot natibo la question series uno para by hulangnos put mensign esti mapus na dia put esti bandan gaseta
Okay, kung sige muna.
no tatlo alay no kalang huli na guahan no si President Jude House Snyder hapupopo ni para guahan esti ilegnan no mini summit decentralization may sa guahulay no huli enige da importante lay para upati no galumi Islas Marianas ta no Mula sa kinya iteralota tinian dan lutan ay daay telik para suwati I sentro I gobernamento. Lau gua tungo da comprende na timegay no situation atensyon nay sa tinahong tauto para utinegwi. Pos gilo estige na hutataka mona na para national luta sigun I gaseta gas President na Jude House Snyder na para November dia 17 za Likpino niya I'm looking forward da para gayas tigi sa no idipunto do Sebio Hokuk na sa former senator umasine antin no masi senator na nantinya sa gasan diskuti estigi nete mano para lastadik lamang lik numona isit bisyo para idos tigi na tano na tinian jan luta Zangilo estige loke ti kumiklinya para tasuhazi isentro ahi. Widesti I para lata di isit bisyo ane para ta aguragi loke isentro ni gobernamento sa makat isit bisyo sa mege na tinsoman ni sita dati mege tauto para sinetbi esti na klase na tinsyor siya na Pues estige na importante esti iuguahan no esti decentralization summit na parogwa na comprendi na da parewa isit bisyo gobernamento gi finance gi bandan itano dan hafa na pina adilanton investment ginin hisog na sa no mega siya na lekno niya changka anay siya no gumahaluta o sinotinian law pud imampus ginagagaw elemento na para isentong gobernamento Ustalo alay no sudut masi para maneku dan no yutimo hurisesya no panmago fitaw-taw dan ihinemlo para todos kada unos dan oto. Sen mas sudut masi para todos si maneku dan especialmente para hagulay sinyo Glenn Marianas Agupa.
Okay, esta si Jesus Masi no Beluken. Ano gininigan po na Island Luta si Jesus Masi talo. Kana magkaya na no ikantun tatin I trungkun lada si luta si Jesus Masi na no naging gua question no umeko ka si Beluken wagwa 10 minutos anti sa dita nahalo mi bisitaw ta no Eugene Tenorio good morning para hogo Dave Lemes para hogo lokwe naging gua question siya untugi wenang It's almost screen. Nagtanahalong binigi right on your, right on the screen here. Okay. Good morning, Parahogo, Mr. Tenorio. All right. Okay. Pues, okay, pues nigi no i-asunto para pa na sabalo mala data time check. Amunazan kumutanza managin halong tanaluma si no former Chief Justice Jose de la Cruz está ready, ang Tilacio está. Wala ta na haluma si okay, gua question gini, okay? Yes, gua question inan mo por favor, dahil na ta sulit tapos sige muna. All right, Louis, kung sige muna gua question mo. Size na kongreso, so apa tisinya masakba? Mono bueno, gua. Oh, okay, enggak ta menciona esta que mapos na sabalo. Enggak. Alright, lamin mo dito ng talo na, okay? Mano waktu i-precinct 2 na i-flooded? Susupi laling mo? Okay, alright, okay. Alright, wait. Sus masih nuin no. Pwede mas aligaw dito mas sudain no no pulo na pamatsobe na. Okay. Basta. Mono na basketball court no? Oh, okay, okay, alright. Está. Wala ako okay no Luis si Jus Masi na no na diretti. Pwede kung no ta-mensione no gimapos siya na sabalo na estagwahan no plano niya public works masudo ay fondo para este beach road yung tungo ko para este siya cross street magang este ginin downtown market palo watu kilos gimadzu San Jose magay nga na pwede mahalo menos siya cross street didi na popan ma-alegre talan sa Luz Masi dan watu lokwi igarapan menan JG Sablan no mama hagogo esta halaga sa azu di antes na tempos na paugo si siya azu na problema po si Luz Masi na no talo sa para todos ito siya magayit man ofreci no para fan maaligres siya maaligaw si fondo so matutuli project Luz Masi talo po din no mala sa panood este time check Bravo Pharmacy and Wellness Center at 10:03.
Ikubit siyantin amot dyan hinemlo. Bravo Pharmacy dyan sentron maulik na hinemlo. Pronto dyan listo na servisyon amot para hinemlo. Agang watugi 233 amot 233-2668. Email isomo prescription di bravomeds@gmail.com. Mabababa ginin lunes esta viernes. Ginin ioran alas 9 gigan, esta oran alas 6 ipupoy. Sabado, ginin ioran alas 9 gigas, estay oran alauna gitanuan talo, oran wato 233, amo 233-2668.
All right. Bravo Pharmacy and Wellness Center, Talo Caninos. Garapan o sinukagman, mga man malipan eh, no? Alright, nagtatapang sige muna kami para tutusan ko ni Paniiko. Nalatanahol naman is kitap na bisitata. Kumubida ya tulidad. Retired Estay Chiguta, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who stayed in the cruise. Si Jules Masi Talon, nung naging guwahat na punata na siya, ipohap posangan. Después naging guwahat kwestiyon, hindi na Tatsubi, kwestiyon ang munatan po di streaming estate na guna din na ini-interrupt, ihapa posangan ito ito. Naging guwahat o mahalong di landline. Mala, datapan sige muna, datapan sa nudo. Yung Chief Justice, former Chief Justice, Jose de la Cruz. Buenas, para hango no Mr. de la Cruz, mamalika todo.
Todo mali, Glenn. Good morning, Dan. I'm happy to be here.
Alright, mga talo. Okay, kung sa state na-celebra, gini na si Mona, iman sulidanwit, gini no, kumo man familian politika, ni Amerikano, no? Siya tasangan kita, no?
We don't know, my friend, terminate trusteeship agreement 1986, Glenn.
Yes.
Nasa doon na punto yung usangan gi ultimo gini na timan Commonwealth gimagat formalidad na. Unggan tatutun ito self-government on January 9, 1978 and a malumin niya na gobyerno then the first Sierra legislature no in 1978 nasa ito.
Yeah.
Okay. Law tima community trusteeship at that point. In other words, tima new U.S. citizen it for about 9 years. Unasa again Gasya tatutsugi ginaani da linyan no undungong na terminate trusteeship agreement yes President Ronald Reagan he issued a presidential proclamation. I don't have the number here. Look, I get na libro. In 1986. Guarda elect November 4, no? Guarda elect November 3. Tuano na November 3 gilago, November 4 ginimagi. Pues sa si President Reagan i proclamation in November 3, 1986. Itagwini hasta November 4, 1986. Pues I guess we decided to go with the president in the States, no? Pero ang problem mo gini na magagawal sa lago, no? Tough by one day, na? No?
Again.
Parewa ang gingwasya sinisedi gini we're always, because of the international dateline, na? Atututungi logon Hawaii stiya on. We're one of the first. Where America's Day begins, no? If na guampas ta pick up it begins here. I guess it ends in California or Hawaii. Actually, it ends in Hawaii. Anyway, yeah, it's a very important day because by presidential proclamation and pursuant to the Northern Marianas Covenant, no man U.S. citizen, it's a gagi covenant and no. Provision on the day that the trusteeship is terminated, no, then we become U.S. citizens. Unless some of us for those of us who decide to do so, want to just be U.S. national, you don't have any privilege as a citizen of the United States. So it doesn't really make sense to me. Why would anyone want to become a U.S. national? And that's an issue in American Samoa right now. American Samoa, to this day, ito American Samoa, solo man ano pa America, man U.S. citizen, kita America, lo. As I understand it, part of the arrangement is for them to just be U.S. national. They don't want to be U.S. citizens. The Donklus na mumugi ato sa umbanda liling niya na they be from U.S. citizens that take advantage of all the privileges and benefits of citizenship. So I guess part of the old system gives American Samoa, and maybe I'm wrong on this, because I'm not from American Samoa. It's probably best if somebody from American Samoa speaks to this law. And hindi nandito session na between the United States and American Samoa. No, nagwa to Kingdom of Samoa, gyoto banda, is the regular Samoa, no? American, ito naman fananan is the American Samoa sa ito na island and sigwa to the US. They wanted to, I guess, maintain their culture and the way they their custom and so forth. They don't really want to be U.S. citizens, so they decided to go for the middle ground, and that is to be a U.S. national. The Lobula Pagutot American Samoa Kalanman in Trisausa, they're part of the United States. It's a U.S. territory, In fact, it's I don't know whether the delegate to American Samoa is a U.S. citizen. Si Amata, I think she is, but if it were somebody from American Samoa, then that person doesn't necessarily have to be a U.S. citizen, I guess, in the U.S. Congress. Anyway, I thought I'd mention that. So going back to our area here in November 4, November 3, here we celebrate it as November 3rd because that's the date the president signed it. But we actually became on November 4 here in the islands, became U.S. citizen. Automatic en masse na klase. To do that on that day. Unless later on one of us decide, I want to be a U.S. national. No, I don't think so. I don't think any one of us decided to become a U.S. national. I don't see why. For example, maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. Okay. Do you have any other question regarding but it's that date.
The question na EST, the relationship in the US, Justice ST, what does it mean to be a U.S. citizen? I mean, is there a responsibility to be what does it take? How can we practice citizenship? What examples can you provide?
We get the benefits of movement. And we have if we're in the States, but because we're not in, the United States of America. What's the name of our country? The name of the country is United States, the United Territories of America.
Right.
Okay, we have to understand that first. Sometimes we gloss over certain things like United States of America, but we got to go back 200 years, 250 years, and then ma adopt the U.S. Constitution, ma formulate U.S. Constitution, the Philadelphia in 1789, ma adopt the U.S. Constitution. Then it had to be ratified by the 13 original colonies. Those were the original 13 states. At that point in time, Eastern Seaboard, is in a colonies. New England, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island. Rhode Island, it did kick in a state, and then all the way down to, I guess, North Carolina and South Carolina. So those are the original 13 colonies, and they were the original 13 colonies of of England. I don't think they were from France. It was colonies. In the north, they have their own way of doing things, I guess, because it's a lot colder in the south. that's where they have di mavnanan cotton plantations and what have you. Siya and Odo, and that's because of the amount of it's a labor intensive type of thing to be out on the field to grow cotton. And the way they did it was through the slave trade, and that has been a black mark in American history. It's as a result of that, the question between the states, North and South, and the manmumunay, North and South on this issue, the issue of slavery, and the South decided to withdraw from the country. Can you imagine? I don't know how many of them decided to at that point in time. No, in 1860, no, and President Abraham Lincoln, no, they decided, and they ended up in a war, the Civil War, and that Civil War was really long. Bulan tauto, bulan no, manmatay ginin na gera. That to this day they still commemorate those events, and to go to the States. So anyway, I think I'm moving away from the what we're trying to do here, and to try to understand where we fit in. Okay, so my first point is that we are not a state. Okay, and that's the Constitution was written in a way so that it's really the citizens of the states that could vote. Jadi na electoral process, no? Tatungan no the electoral vote. Kana ba ni electa tatungo lo bentiti tatungo. Each state under the U.S. Constitution is entire. There are two houses. One is called the People's House, and that would be the House of Representatives. Okay, and the House of Representatives is based on population, right? It's in California, which is the most populous of the 50 states. California has the largest, 30 some no members the House of Representatives. Law for each of the 50 states today, each of them have 2 senators. And the 2 senators from each state together, they become, the party of 100. It's a very exclusive club to be a member of the United States Senate. Isn't a lot of times ang gingwa kandidato na running for president, they usually come from the Senate. That the last time si Obama, then si Biden, then after that, and every now and then, of course, we have governors from some of the well-known states. No, Tegis Reagan, no, in California, he ran for president and won. Alistalot to see. There's another one, no. That anyway, there's a whole bunch of them. Si Bush, Bush the second, the son, or si President George W. Bush was the governor of Texas. So every now and then you get some prominent family member from the states that would run and beat a senator for the office. So we have 2 houses, and that's really the reason why we don't vote for United States president. And my argument is this: in my new book, I'm saying, well, maybe the U.S. Congress should propose an amendment to the United States Constitution. I mean, back then in the 1700s, the 1800s, Tigobulagi territory, and the territories are far. The Timan Moday Plelen, Itautog in the tempo, 1860, 1898. Ati Moday Plane, Tada Plane, right? Tada Plane, Togo, Gigana Moday Plane in 3 hours, Matoa Gato Away. No? Pues it's a lot easier, and we know each other more. Pues antes na, ang ginyebu territory na, no? Timang Finue English na itauto. Adi from English gita Puerto Rico 1898. Tadza. Adi from English gita Guam 1898. Man Finue Espanyol bantilo timang Finue English. Adi Philippine with 60 million people today, I think. After the war, of course, it became an independent nation. They've always wanted to be independent. The United States, you're too big for us to handle, I guess. So you want independence? Okay, we'll give you guys independence. And they became independent after the war. World War II, ni man independent. For a long time, they were a territory of the United States. And type of territory, unincorporated. Again, the United States Constitution doesn't apply of its own force to the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico. Later on, Maagang Puerto Rico Commonwealth got definite legislation that in 1950 they became what is called also a Commonwealth. But a Commonwealth is a term of art depending on how you use it. It means what you say it means. Kalanidi Alice in Wonderland is still any. I choose to to pick the meaning of the word I use. You know what I mean? Tate Alice Wonderland, alileko stigi na pues stigi ko bekiling niya ti aleko ti sapatos pues ti sapatos But anyway, it doesn't apply. Last time we discussed a little bit about the insular cases in 1901. It has to do with this import of goods from Puerto Rico to New York. And they were not sure whether to tax the import. So it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, well, if it is a part of the United States, then there should be no import duty. Other customs, right? Okay, law, if it is not a part of the United States, then there should be like any foreign country. You know what I mean? Huh? So the Supreme Court said, well, it's not part of the United States for customs purposes, at least, and for other reasons, that they mention in the opinion. Among other things, you have a strange language, or two class in custom. You got to from the class in tautos this year. You know what I mean? Huh? I mean, Mangagin man matatatsun yung justices gida Washington D.C. They're talking about Puerto Rico, then Guam, then Philippines. Tada ni man matugato, tiba tunga fa na klasin tano do ko bula kulebla pa bula no tiger pa officer. You know what I mean? Anyway, go ahead. I don't mean to stop you from asking.
Topic para ta discuss pa upo isti tratus dota covenant dan US no ako na atan ini no pinina no wasya man nanahalom siya tamanaw tauta.
Yeah.
Man gumanggaygit gi na klase man guaha na definition is the Northern Marianas descent kay no covenant na.
Oh yeah. Nagarata no Glenn. Ito kay covenant ilelengan na the Northern Marianas may regulate the ownership of land in the Northern Marianas, and it will regulate. In other words, I guess that is a future tense, clause. It doesn't say it shall regulate. No, so the word shall and the word will are basically the same as far as I see it in this case. It will, because it is an agreement. You're required to regulate it. There was some discussions back then, and from what I understand, it's the really part of the people, the representative of mostly the United States is afraid that you know what I mean? Huh? So that has become an issue. So that was not defined in the covenant, but it was mentioned in the covenant that the Northern Marianas will regulate the ownership of land in the Northern Marianas to persons of Northern Marianas descent. Okay? And may thereafter regulate it for, I don't know, I guess another period of time and all that. Kalana, leave it open to us to decide that. And then, okay, so we talk about the covenant in 1975, 76, became public U.S. federal law, joint resolution. 1977, we drafted our 76. After it became law in March of 76. Later on that year, we had a constitutional convention, and we drafted the NMI Constitution, in 1976. And then by 1977, stay boys no. Tutun campaign, that's está pamatutuni 78, January 9. So we have to start having proof na ni Tauta is the Northern Marianas Constitution. It's in the NMI Constitution. Nita define Northern Marianas descent. Okay. And what was done in the Constitution is they picked a date that is clear and certain, I guess. You know what I mean? That mausa fra ni 1950. Ikwa for 1 month and day on that year, 1950. Those who are citizens of the trust territory here staying here, citizens of the trust territory or domicile or were born by 1950, no? Either you were born or a domiciliary of the Northern Marianas in 1950. That's a cutoff date. That's the beginning date for determining who is 100% Northern Marianas descent. After that, if you get married to, okay, go ahead.
Basta kumprende no na ito siya manggagigit in 1950s. Alright. Kung masyad sa paniso na isumogo pinakpugera sa gaygaw gwini Northern Marianas descent, right? In that definition.
Right, exactly, because I think we have 1 or 2 cases that were decided in court. And one of them is that you were born, number 1, and the other one is that you were a domiciliary of the Northern Marianas. Ano mas sagon na? Oh, dan Chamorro, for example, this is on Dutia sa Guamo, no? Then Kimahamdra, na? Okay, that this is not look, Gobi sa saga Japan, Dawon sa saga Saipan, na? Hanggang masusisida no pa ako na sa kagisirita pa ako Mississippi da. No, todo tempo da masisilirin ni Northern Marianas sa amin na dos na. Guana ba ni mapo sa amin ay mamulan no padgon gigato. Tisina ba look to Mississippi do? I don't look like I'm from Mississippi, no? Then atanafan magi ko Mandilyam to Mississippi gini.
Ilili ko na napunasan na siya na the Recife Coast, like in next question,
coast.
the resources, like justice, was siya manalong question gini, like then na zone na question.
Manalong question gi Northern Marianas, pat galon ido mo radio station.
Ha, but what does it mean to be a Northern Marianas descent sa tuwa pa? Man, estaba bulala at jutsu. Wini luta tinian hoku esta sa itaw hizum matsutsuli resources usgo liliko na nangga ta atin ko stick ko sinya ma-define hafesti apa no izonia benefit is the Northern Marianas descent sa tutaw ginin hizum no matsuli share resources usliliko ko sinya ma-redefine apa no Northern Marianas descent izonia kano itasig resources monotinya na sa esta po stapa bulan na juju malatsay todo siya juju sta
I mean, you know, part of the problem is makasarili pa ta blame it out na ni lang da po panaligo na niya. You know what I mean? Waswa loki antes ani bula juju na finapigera no Glenn bula juju ana katad gi da chalan no gikatan gi matansa dan no gi micro beach areas yan ni mangay gise mangrove trees na alma gi sa bula juju después na tisina ta blame toto sa nidong isti guana blame debi ta blame mai sahayit gwinin ni bidada ta loki sa ti man mafanagin mampus po no ecology and no siya environmental no preservation and so forth taki later on after 30 years tatan like man munggi daya juju man munggi se panglogi kantuntasi man ay gitodo tay mano sa bulan hotel sa man maksa taman man yagi hot I ajuju ki papay hotel
no justice rotwa naga hono na itauto ne mattu mogi po fatsusu ne
yeah
employee ne mattu lo humuhuzun sa pumipis kan poingi todo ne us kumikilik tagina insi Tausa lisensyamo para un pesca necesita no kanatagi reservation.
Yeah. But okay. Idomo question is ko no season para manaligo panglo pa no tagi gidalutan ni tito di tempo takimatuk to repay fest in San Francisco ni guahan ni di season ni pon fanaligo bino no tagana lele mo no Glenn
Natsutsu na the voice magtipis ka no.
Yeah. No. And again, no, it's you know, the law applies to everybody actually. No, Glenn, tisina talo unta to sinya no bumoka ice cream de yotu tisina. You know what I mean, huh?
Ulo, este Northern Marianas descent ililiko na no. Kosiya na really fine na. Office din Indian na station na ganyan.
Kala I'm not already kotitan killing the judge la. Oh, got up on to ice cream da isti te pumal po fa no. You know what I mean? Tisina on to no Glenn. You know, it's my friend na still line, my friend na waga line na. Then again, uno gi titodo US Constitution applicable in Northern Marianas. Law, one of them is the Equal Protection Clause. You cannot discriminate against other people with respect to the law. Okay. Pues one of the issues gini banda no Northern Marianas descent na is that you are discriminating. Of course it is discriminatory.
I know it's a proof discrimination. Nasa.
Law still na for those people na no ni tisina man manggaitan no na no. Inalana ti firsti agua na mano pasan lago sinyo ama montano. Pagwa ami gini ni timan Northern Marianas descent tisina mi man montano. So the law is really up to the people. Who makes the law? Itan itauto. The most basic law that we have is this. A constitution. And it is in that constitution. How do we end up with that law? It's because it's the covenant. The covenant requires that we regulate the ownership of land. And in Malofani, 25 years there, we did not do anything. We just kept on letting it go. It's really up to the people to make that decision. The Bula, no, huh?
Yeah. Land alienation para yung Northern Marianas descent siya manggaytano na, right?
Right.
Na discrimination na.
It's a discrimination that is permissible.
Permissible, exactly.
Permissible under the
justice was daging permissible hita na Northern Marianas descent siya manggaytano na. Was totally resources that belongs to the Northern Marianas descent should also be only for the Northern Marianas descent. The argument that Kosinya Marine dynasty, I don't know.
Tisina, Glenn. No, besang na right off the bat na tisina. You know, pero na tauto ombis esta na nga ni uno por na 4. Mandalon putano. I mean, those people who are not of Northern Marianas descent, I could feel. After Agupa ka that no panalo ka basta after the
discrimination na para Hogwa pun own land. See?
Right. It is discrimination. But let me finish, Glenn. Let me finish. It's permissible. And the reason why it's permissible because of that insular cases. In the insular cases, ownership of land is not a fundamental right. But if you were in the States, it is a fundamental right. And the reason why it's not a fundamental right in the unincorporated territories is because the Constitution, not every part of the Constitution applies here. I guess the part about the U.S. Senate doesn't apply because we don't have any senators in the U.S. Congress. I guess the part about voting for the U.S. president doesn't apply here because we don't vote for the U.S. president, right? No? And that's the reason why it says, you know, kalan with this na clause in issue na is kalan Supreme Court at that time, 120 years ago, wasn't sure what to do with this. And does it really apply? I mean, thousand italisti siya na klasin tauto ko man sindodoga ha di si Pago pero you know what I mean man worry. And then at the same time, the composition of the justices of that Supreme Court was the same that made up separate but equal na case. Plessy versus Ferguson. And in Plessy versus, which was decided at about the same time as the insular cases. So these are the people that says, you know, So long as there are separate but equal facility, maulika pa negro dan ya paka pofansi parang, you know. In 1954 na under Earl Warren, Chief Justice California. No, I mean Chief Justice Ginn in California. So California was in the state Supreme Court Justice okay. Lo si Warren and the Supreme Court decided to overrule ito na case Plessy versus Ferguson. And niya, no. And that started the all this integration movement in the States. Okay.
Okay, next question gini no. Okay, no, now we can regulate it. Okay, pues siya na regulate always the Northern Marianas descent isunya no kalatiki Indian reservation na siya magpeska no salmon na
Oh.
Sung gini na no siya paro patsutsu gini no justice okay patsutsu lo no tisinya pumpeska solo na kasi tagwini one difference na than a Northern Marianas descent. I think that was the question from our people. No, ako na mamparewi ta sa tutuin so ako na tagino na klase na o sila klase kung siya ma-regulate managwa fee. Okay, todo non-NMI, non-NMD na no okay dito
You
na klase no fee paron peska. Tagino na klase na.
But
Okay. A special account for the distribution to the NMD sa lapi niya na sa niya resources. Can that be done?
I don't know, like, no, Glenn. I mean, that's you're getting into territory that is vague. The no of the bad discriminatory, whether and you got to remember, look, no, we're talking about land and sea, no.
Yes.
Está tatunga fai si part no masusedi no idota sa marchlands idota
pus manmanoy tati.
idota zaman mananya yun tati ni idota mismo idota safa na ti idota that any gina issue gini sinalo pumeskay tao to lang na naganarata sa NMD ako no putanwa tipo no tasi. I mean, you don't mix them up, na klase. No, is what I'm trying to say. And besides, when it comes to submerged lands and the oceans around, the feds have a lot of power in that area. Sinabantigi gibandantano, pumeska and all that. When you start discriminating, like no, Glenn, I worry about that because it sounds like you're gonna moving down a slippery slope, if you know English. Na klase. Ungan, the Constitution, public lands belong to the people of the Northern Marianas, no? The definition, I think, in the Constitution that it belongs to the people of Northern Marianas. That's why the money that's generated from the lease of public lands, pero hotel, whatnot, no, they go from the lessee to a government, and in turn the government turns it over to a Northern Marianas Land Trust. Isalapit para uson people of Northern Marianas descent. But I'm not really an expert or that well versed in that. It's been a while since I look at that. What can we and we cannot do, but all I'm saying is that if we're gonna do that, let's do it right and make sure that it's fair. You know what I mean? Huh?
Because it can be done by enabling legislation. All right. Take a call from our community.
Yeah. Let's have a call. And if I can answer, like I said, I mean.
One more, por favor. Después es una radio. Go ahead, caller on the cell. There's a more question para si Justice De La Cruz. Go ahead. Okay. Sangana non big, just for the record. Okay, Joseph Kinabenti. All right. Wala mo question kung sige mo.
eleksyon at sa kauso o kumuso para untuk pauso begini pabukai itu gini kuat register itu para di pangkota itu ada wajah di kapal lo nggak para ada nanti kawan ini sedang naikkan oh ngapain itu tanah itu saya semua right untuk human rights independent nabi dan kapolda itu apa oh tahu Amerika saya Amerika dari itu saya juga right kalau untuk kaitan itu hilang kaitan di tentang penyok.
Okay, thank you, Nino. Okay, malagat na lang si...
Yeah.
Okay, alright. Okay. Esta si Luis Mose, gatanong si Justice so yeah, responding to it.
Repeat funny the question is the caller. So I cannot hear him real good.
May gigwam sa asunto no tsotso minalongo parapan
Yeah.
sa magistra para pambota guam.
Maristra?
Todo i diretsonya gini kita Marianas como Northern Marianas desenge. Ito ki question gini ni.
Kogagaya. Oh yeah,
basta.
kagaya. Oh, kagaya. It should be. I mean, yeah. Di ba yung kaya sa ti kada undingo in Northern Marianas malagwitan mo da mano para yung gobyerno?
Okay. So, okay po sa...
Bravo na Esta ti Northern Marianas pues esta ti domoy gumamo. Di ba yung kaya sa matotot ti na sinasumago?
It will not respond. Okay, naga sagwag ini no job. Okay. Okay, naga start question gini ito ta online. Likan. Alright, pusa mala tababay telefon pa ako sa gingwag no. Ako mas no unatan kinong ito siya manggay no na benefits como o sino siya man matsubi no siya no justice through legislation
Mano?
Siya para mana klaro siya hafen no kumikiling niya
Oh yeah, so long as you don't, I mean, it's the constitutional law. Let me try to explain the hierarchy of law. Which one is the main law? You know what I mean? The way we make laws, federal law ni covenant, that was an agreement. That's an agreement between the Northern Marianas and the U.S. government, the people of the Northern Marianas. It went through several steps.
Yes.
The commission, the political status commission, masigned as the president, Franklin Hayden Williams, pues masamid guatugi Northern Marianas people, the guano plebiscite. Kako nasuglen, kayo ganyan kayo si resident commissioner Canham.
Okay, thank you. No.
O tayo gini. Matto na si Canham, kako tunga si Commissioner Canham na matto sa para conduct plebiscite. No? In 1976 na nito. The smaga na gini. He was a very well-known editor for the Christian Science Monitor in America. Matungo si he's a even keel kind of person. See, everybody respects the guy. Okay, this is not to say it's different from a personal representative Lokwi, si Franklin Hayden Williams, no? Lo, bisa na kumandaki plebiscite gini Northern Marianas, daman matitoto United Nations and all of that, but ma-approve covenant by 78% of the votes, no? Which is pretty high, actually, for turnout. Después de yun ay tatogi the Constitution. The draft is the Constitution. So, okay, where does our Constitution fit in relation to the covenant? Okay, under a covenant, the supreme law of the Commonwealth is those applicable provisions of the Constitution, laws, and treaties of the United States, and this covenant becomes the supreme law as defined in that covenant agreement. And so what happens is that on the next tier below that would be the Constitution of the Northern Marianas. The Constitution of the Northern Marianas is something that we use to govern ourselves internally. The Commonwealth is what applies a Constitution. The mismo Constitution lo que masamid guato US Congress and presidente no declare na the NMI Constitution is in line with the Covenant and the United States Constitution. So it was approved on that point. Now, let me mention, we have a constitution in Northern Marianas that governs the way the legislature should conduct itself, the way the governor should conduct himself, and the way the judiciary does its work. Okay, so we have those three branches pursuant to the Constitution. It's not pursuant to the covenant. The distinction between us and for example, our next door neighbor, Guam, is totally Guam with the Constitution. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, the idea of a constitution is to govern yourself locally, na klase, present state constitution, no? You govern the state, okay? Puerto Rico has its own constitution, and it's a Commonwealth of the United States, but it's also an unincorporated territory. But Puerto Rico is treated differently for some purposes because it's big. Number one, for example, the federal judges are lifetime appointments, for example. Why? Often siya man allowed to have a lifetime federal judge in Puerto Rico, which is not one of the 50 states. Well, they say they have a lot. The workload is very high, and therefore we're going to treat them as give them lifetime tenure. There's an Puerto Rico judge that was here about 3-4 years ago. Judge Gail P. He's a federal judge, and he has a lifetime tenure, and he's from Puerto Rico. So all the Puerto Rico judges in the federal courts have lifetime tenure. Guam doesn't have that. The Northern Marianas doesn't have that. Virgin Islands doesn't have that. Of course, American Samoa doesn't have a federal judge. So they have their own Supreme local courts. Law, is that the Constitution? Then is under the covenant. But so what? I mean, that's internal self-government. We govern ourselves. And besides, not all of the U.S. Constitution actually apply out here. Like I mentioned, no? Because not all look applicable. The U.S. Constitution has only about 7 articles. Okay, let me mention that. Northern Marianas Constitution, quantum articles, what? 128. A lot of provisions kung todo the right to a clean and healthful environment, which is good. I like that. Law, anything and everything under the sun is the U.S. Constitution. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not that good. You know what I mean? Because sometimes within our own Constitution, we use phrases that comes back to haunt us. One of them, for example, basta sa tamakpo na, casino gambling na. After casino gambling, the Constitution. Gambling. Let me finish, Glenn. Gambling is prohibited. Pues filling na después with a comma, except as provided by law. Then guess what the legislature did? They passed a law that says it's okay. So whenever equal manalo may except as provided by law. I mean, pasangan na prohibited, basta. Basta manugando. You know what I mean, huh?
Okay.
And tidamo ito na eh. Pues mga masangan. Longin, and ito malagumi pong prohibit na eh. Mga mababay, peta gini na donay ni Jabi. Da po mababay, peta, da po naolong yun. Anyway, go ahead. Officer mo question.
Kalan po bisan no ki i-taxes no? No land tax po nanto yung constitution no? No, as it may be provided by law talo bisan no? Ay.
I got to like what's I got to know except abortion. I hesitate to talk about that because I'm a Catholic, going in the and all that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's if I were to say more about abortion, I'm a dead duck. To continue to stay a bishop. You know what I mean? I like to talk to the bishop every once in a while. Then si Pali. You know what I mean? Daan mata do dawan na may mga foot may tiro da may misogi. No, anyway, the point na gini. That's one of the provisions. Abortion is prohibited, comma, except as provided by law. Pues Agupa na sinedo ta legislature. Okay, we're gonna have to allow abortion. You know what I mean? For the health of the mother and the unborn child and all that. But that's a public policy issue like that. No, a lot of times you can argue that for a day or two, if not more. You see, question abortion and all that. If people are on either side of the political spectrum on this issue. Did I answer your question,
Yes,
Ben,
yes.
on that one?
The
point again is no. Don't put that clause at the end. If you don't want it, don't put it to make it look like you want to say yes, but you mean no. You know what I mean? Say yes and yes, then ketwa. Then masodan na unconstitutional, but so be it.
Yeah.
And then try something else. Basta sinabi except as provided by law.
To the oras na sige muna, I'm gonna take one more call. Monica?
Yeah.
Is that the closest in the segment? That's the caller. Inon mo por favor. Is that the sige muna? Go ahead, caller.
I read something to the effect, and this is regarding Article 12. I read something in all the analysis of the Constitution to the effect of Section 805 of the Covenant. Can you enlighten the people? And I also read the case law news comment for the insular area. You said it's permissible, and I wanted to know if it's permissible and protected under the insular cases within the Article 12. And to the effect of Exit Covenant Section 805, which states that there are, I think, 5 provisions of the covenant which the CNMI and the federal government should be in consultation and should be. One of them was Section 805. Can you please expound on that and enlighten us? Give us your legal opinion on that,
Okay.
so that we can be educated.
All right. Thank you, Nona.
Thank you, Justice.
Okay.
Okay.
Glenn, can you restate that question? Because half the time I'm trying to listen.
Is that hang up? No, anyway,
Okay, yeah.
si Pat Guerrero dun na question kung expound Section 805.
Section 805 of the covenant?
Yes.
Oh, that is the section of the covenant that says the Northern Marianas will, for 25 years, regulate the ownership of land and may thereafter, covenant, Section 805. No, so it really forced us to do that, to regulate it. And the way we regulated it is through the Constitution, not through the covenant. Will, until 25 years after the termination of the trusteeship agreement. Okay, so 25 years after the termination of the trusteeship agreement, and may thereafter regulate the alienation. So 25 years from, I guess, 1986, no? And may thereafter regulate the alienation of permanent long-term interest in real property so as to restrict the acquisition of such interest to persons of Northern Marianas descent. I think the question is, well, first of all, that is what is stated in the covenant. Question is whether it's constitutional. And that has been litigated. It was litigated before the Ninth Circuit. And the Supreme Court said, well, under the insular cases, you know, the U.S. can agree to this, and that provision is okay. You can, because, well, in the territories which are unincorporated, the Constitution doesn't apply of its own force. If you know Latin, exproprio vigore, then it doesn't automatically apply. I guess it applies when the Congress declares that this territory is slated to become a state. Destined for statehood. And then when it's destined for statehood, like Hawaii was in 1898, when it was annexed, but that's a different story again. I mean, if you talk to a Hawaiian, that was stealing the kingdom. You know what I mean? Ito to Hawaiian, masakyo ni kingdom, makalabosi queen. You know what I mean? But Hawaii, when it was annexed by a resolution, the joint resolution of the Congress to annex as part of the territory. So you could consider it, I guess, incorporated. And you could also consider it that it's the rights that are deemed fundamental in the 50 states would also be fundamental in Hawaii. But under the insular cases, those cases that are unincorporated, that are not destined for statehood, and I guess by putting this in the covenant, the United States presumes that we will not become a state too. Because if it felt that we were going to become a state, then we would be incorporated, and then Article 12 would be unconstitutional. But that's not the situation. In the covenant, in the covenant itself, the United States was afraid also that if we don't do something about this, mansintano itototano. They're afraid. I mean, I don't know whether that fear is justified or not. But for those who argue otherwise, there are those that they should loosen that up and let Article 12 be a little bit more flexible, because there are within our community permanent residents that are not of Northern Marianas descent, who like to own a piece of property. Why can't we allow those? You know what I mean? And then there are also those other people that says, it's my property. What are you telling me? I cannot eat my own chewing gum? You know what I mean? Why are you telling me this? Okay, but the way the wording in the Constitution is worded is this. The acquisition by persons of Northern, you know, naipaluman, malagon, naipaluman ni Taromo. Lo, ipaluma tisina no. I mean, if you're not of Northern, you cannot buy land. In other words, if I were Chinese or I were Japanese, I'm not Northern Marianas descent, and I come in here, I cannot acquire land. I cannot buy land of the long-term interest. But let me mention this. During the trust territory days, Gua tau i Micronesia ni Mangaita no gini gisaipan. Mafahan esti before Article 12 became effective. And they still own the land. I think, unless I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. Tanunin niya esti takima bendi, I guess, and then the buyer has to be a person of Northern Marianas descent. You know what I mean, huh? Eko kagwain tingo ti Northern Marianas descent da Tototruno district. The man gini tano. Why can't they? You could buy land in Palau during the trust territory days, I guess. But anyway, I don't know whether I answered the question that was raised by Yudulo. It has to do with these insular cases, and some of them are saying, well, the insular cases really is something that we should maintain. And Kalan, is this the almond? It's good for you and bad for you. I mean, up to taste, huh? No.
Presta no upusi rota no bolu ta stira esti mas mo lagi man
Rota Glenn. Rota Glenn. Tipakada sabalusti. Glenn. Det blir ju nästan alla motorna klassen speakers, yeah. Then no. I don't mean. Solo man malaki tatalo. Malo mo na, gwasa ten kiman uso na fa na pasidot sa pero kwentos no. You know what? It's your program, Glenn. I mean, it's your call, but I'm more than happy to talk and try to be open and try my best to explain. Actually, if sometimes tilele ko no dinadansi to tempo. Whatever I say here, the program, I think take it with a grain of salt and see whether I'm right or wrong.
Take out one more call. Dito go ahead, caller. Nanmua sa posta pa sige mo na. All right, sige mo. Oh, Teresa, trivia deklarasyon lo. What question mo para si Justice de la Cruz? Okay. All right, thank you, caller nito. Down i Mount Tapocho no umuzong i streaming i live Facebook, live YouTube. All right, está. Okay, pues Justice pudi oras ta pusit mo last word lang salita. Oh, November 20. Para todo si Maniku no November 20 second leblo. Explica Justice ang salita niyo.
Glenn, esta man maptile blue light that no nananga pa ko si Mrs. Naputi na Ijoten Kizu Public Library because she wanted to be a part of their celebration of Ijoten Kizu Public Library no 30th anniversary this year na. And they're celebrating it in December of 20 to 30 years ago no. It's really block that I will be introducing the Jotan Kizu Public Library on November 20. I call it the fundamental issues. We have a lot of issues getting common for such a small for such a small jurisdiction. No. Jan Jota location na. Atana mangagid talo lugi Pacifico da. Manion niya guato gida Japan then China then Philippines ki guato America. So I mean this raises a lot of issues in terms of geographical distance, size of the population, no ability to raise capital to be able to go importantes two of the issues that were taken away by the United States Congress. One of them is immigration, and the other one is, of course, the minimum wage law. Minimum wage is takalan is taman papadunin nito. law immigration is something that I think the U.S. Congress should address sensitively with respect to island territories and commonwealths. Ti manrikwi tano the one of the most important industry that we have that's feasible here is visitor industry. But our government, this is where the government comes in. I think it should explore other feasible industries that are good for the Commonwealth and good for the people. Está na industry ta malago na. I mean, let's face it. Está maapo si garment industry. I don't think the garment industry is ever going to come back again. The casino industry, I'm not sure. It really depends on how we get our act together on this issue. But we should have our act together on this issue. But aside from those industries, we need to take a look. I mean, one of these days, something ilas gi around the world that sinan man boka sa tada man Gilibro ko mention si Ken Jones. A while back, Ijatinian, they used to have about 5,000 to 7,000 heads of cattle. Gidatinian. That was a vibrant cattle industry back then. I don't know what happened. I mean, if Ken was, believe in the Commonwealth so much that he would be willing to spend that much capital on buying all those cattle and stuff like that, there must be other kind of industries that could fit the islands in terms of its size and its population. That's all. That's why I wish our leaders would look into that, because that's what we need. You know what I mean? All right, that's it. I don't want to make people mad at me.
Justice, that's okay. No, ora 2 o'clock. May sinyam
No.
Can they pick up your book on Amazon?
Estau una makikitse ka na Amazon, tama ano. Amazon.
November 20, 2 o'clock.
November 20 at 2 o'clock, gijoten kido public library, lo tutungo na si situation ni COVID-19 ni kala na increase gudi didi. The depende ko, I mean, it's going to be social distancing talo and all that stuff na. Okay. All right. Thank you, Glenn, and thank you for having me on your program. Take care.
Justice, former Justice. Say de la Cruz, si Dus Masi, talo. Sululo kuya tulo na yung nanay manapauta. Na para matuhap no kay relasyon ta ni gobernamento Amerikano ta ni hap dai tratos. Dus Masi talo Justice de la Cruz.
Okay. Thank you.
Pati ora na para takan ading mo apalidos dinigi promota. Di oran alas 11 está pasado 10 minutos. Entonces, muy importante lo que se le para la información. Y en la historia de Marianas Agupa, si Mariano Iglesias, si tú más si Marian, y por simple si Peter y abogado, y en Island Guam, la otra piscina otro sábado, y en Luta, si Cuelo Tim, Luz más si Cuelo Tim, Senator Singh, pero Papa, querían si Luz más si por simple si Luta, si Doro, so siya gi mamamayla na Sabado. Muna man malepa na amon ito i-bravo Farmers Wellness Center karapan ng kagman. Wahu si Glenn H. Magnolia ilagway sa inafamaulit na pas para tululusan do. Adios, huwag sa hanso. Esta otro Sabado.